A heavy and uneasy silence lingered over Westwood Estates. Long before the first siren broke the air, and Officer Thomas slammed both palms onto the hood of the silver sedan, the metallic boom startling the 3 children inside. As he barked, "Step out now." A calm voice replied, "Officer, may I ask why I'm being told to step out?" But Thomas yanked the door open violently. The driver, a black man named Elias Vance, stepped out slowly with his hands raised, and Thomas immediately slammed him against the car, demanding to know if he carried drugs or weapons. Elias said he was only taking his kids home. But Thomas reached into his pocket and pulled out $20,000 in cash, instantly accusing him of theft. Elias stayed silent, though he knew that in 10 minutes, more than 300 men would surround the street. Half an hour earlier, Elias had been driving his children home from their aunt's house, calmly mediating their conversations. While hiding the truth of the world his phone buzzed with dozens of messages from a group chat labeled The Syndicate, which he ignored. As Lena questioned why people called him the founder, Elias brushed it off, protecting the double life he lived. Ordinary father in one world, something far more powerful in the other. He drove with perfect precision, hiding the $30,000 watch beneath his sleeve. When he entered Westwood Estates, he noticed a cruiser behind him, but didn't alter his behavior at the 7th block. The police lights flashed and he instructed the kids on how to behave. Having mentally prepared them for a moment like this, Thomas approached aggressively, tapping the flashlight against the window, shining it into Elias's and the children's faces. Elias calmly retrieved his documents, but once they came back clean, Thomas became irritated and ordered him out of the vehicle. The pat-down was unnecessarily rough. And when Thomas found the folder of cash, he called for backup, soon joined by additional officers. They searched the car, forcing Lena out and rummaging through backpacks, groceries in compartments, but found nothing illegal. Frustrated, Thomas noticed the expensive watch on Elias's wrist and demanded he remove it. Suspecting it was stolen, Elias refused without a warrant, and Thomas slammed his head against the car, making Lena scream as Samir tried to rush forward. Bleeding slightly, Elias remained composed and announced he was making a phone call. Ignoring Thomas's protest, he dialed the number on speaker. A deep voice answered, immediately asking if he was okay. Elias replied with the location and said 6 badges were involved, telling the caller to bring the family. When asked how many, Elias looked directly at Thomas and said, "All of them," the caller responded. 10 minutes, Thomas mocked the call, assuming it was a bluff, but Elias only leaned back against the car. Minutes later, engines rumbled in the distance. Growing louder, Thomas stiffened and asked, "What is that?" To which Elias replied, softly, "My family." Then 15 black SUVs, Cadillacs, G-Wagons, Range Rovers rolled into the street in perfect formation. They stopped in silence, doors opening simultaneously as dozens of men stepped out. Then more, forming a wide, disciplined perimeter. The officers instinctively backed up. Thomas shouted for them to disperse, but none moved. More vehicles arrived. Luxury cars, trucks, motorcycles, each adding more men. Silent, organized, unflinching radios crackled with calls for backup. But the street continued filling. By 7:55 p.m., more than 300 men surrounded the scene, standing perfectly still, watching and waiting. As the tension deepened and the officers realized they were no longer in control, then a dark blue Rolls-Royce Phantom arrived, gliding to a halt as the crowd fell into a tense silence, the kind that settles when power steps into the open silice. The Judge Thorne emerged slowly, every movement deliberate, his tailored suit catching the faint glow of streetlights. Men shifted aside without being told, clearing a path as he walked toward Elias, who stood with a fresh cut above his eye, and his children trembling nearby. They embraced briefly, before Elias muttered that the officers had put hands on him in front of his kids, and Thorne's jaw tightened, with a controlled fury that promised consequences. Turning to the officers, Thorne asked calmly about the charges, receiving only stuttering authority in return, until Mr. Leonard Price stepped forward, introducing himself as senior partner and demanding the legal basis for the stop. Thomas faltered. Miller questioned the justification, and Riley hesitated under the mounting pressure as news crews arrived, documenting every second. When Chief Howard reached the scene, he surveyed the 300 silent men standing in unified formation before facing Elias, who explained the unlawful stop, the illegal search, and the assault that forced him to call his family for protection. Thorne then spoke for the cameras, revealing Elias as the underboss of the Black Phoenix Syndicate, a multi-state operation known for precision, wealth, and discipline, leaving the officers pale with dawning realization. Price added that Elias had no criminal record, and Thorne emphasized that the assembled men were family, bound by a code harm one, and the entire brotherhood responded. Miller asked why a man of such power lived quietly, and Elias answered that he had spent 15 years building a wall between his children and his life, a wall shattered in minutes. He told the chief he would not file charges, but made clear the bias and disrespect behind the stop. The assumptions made about his skin and his car, the disregard for his role as a father. Howard warned Thomas that he was alive, only because Elias allowed it to happen. Afterward, Elias gathered his children, walked through the parted crowd, and drove away, as the 300 men dispersed like fading smoke. 4 weeks later, the police commission hearing convened, packed with reporters and community members, as Detective Kim Lee presented evidence of policy violations, including racial profiling, unlawful search, excessive force, and false reporting. Lena Vance, 13 years old, testified that she heard Thomas say "people like you," knowing exactly what he meant, and defended her father's dignity. Thomas admitted he had acted on bias and apologized publicly. The commission terminated him permanently and enacted reforms for oversight, transparency, and bias prevention. Elias left knowing his two worlds had collided. Yet feeling that some justice had been achieved, he later spoke with Lena, explaining that he was neither good nor bad, but complicated, hoping she would grow into someone better. She admitted she no longer fully understood him, and he assured her he was still her father. Outside, Thorne's SUVs kept watch, as Elias accepted the consequences of being exposed, while finding a fragile truth he could live with. In the days following the hearing, tension lingered in the neighborhood, where whispers about the night spread like wildfire, transforming into rumors and myths that distorted the truth. Some residents avoided the Vance family, unsure of how to approach them, after learning the depth of Elias's hidden authority, while others offered quiet support. Thorne maintained a discreet presence, ensuring rivals did not sense vulnerability. In the aftermath, Elias found himself balancing the syndicate's demands with the fragile, emotional needs of his children, who looked at him with a mixture of fear, admiration, and confusion at school. Lena faced questions from classmates who had seen the viral footage, and she struggled to reconcile the gentle father she knew with the dangerous figure presented online. Elias met with her teachers privately, trying to shield her from further scrutiny, while navigating the consequences of his exposed identity. Meanwhile, the police department dealt with public outrage, protests, and intense media pressure, prompting internal restructuring and wary officers adjusting to new protocols. Chief Howard reached out to Elias, quietly acknowledging the power dynamics, but also expressing a desire to prevent future injustices. Elias appreciated the gesture, but knew trust could not be rebuilt easily. Nights grew quieter in the Vance home, yet the air carried an unspoken weight. As the children processed the upheaval, Elias wrestled with guilt, wondering whether the life he had built, the empire he sustained, was truly compatible with being the father he wanted to be. He considered stepping back from operations, though he knew such a move risked endangering those he cared about. Thorne advised patience, assuring him that time would allow cracks to heal. Even so, Elijah sensed the uncertainty lurking in every decision he now faced. Despite everything, Elijah stayed committed to guiding his children, hoping they would someday understand his choices. The path ahead was uncertain, but he faced it with determination, loyalty, and a quiet hope for redemption in the end.